Article of the Week, number 3, due October 4th. Questions 19 through 28 are based on the following passages and supplementary material. The idea of a World Bank became a reality in 1944 when delegates to the Bretton Woods Conference pledged to outlaw practices which are agreed to be harmful to world prosperity. Passage 1 discusses the benefits of World Bank, while Passage 2 focuses on the limited lifespan of the Bretton Woods system. Passage 1. In 1944, 730 delegates from 44 Allied nations met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, just as World War II was ending. They were attending an important conference. This mostly forgotten event shaped our modern world because delegates at the Bretton Woods Conference agreed on the establishment of an international banking system. To ensure that all nations would prosper, the United States and all other Allied nations set rules for a post-war international economy. The Monetary Fund, IMF, the Bretton Woods system created the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The IMF was founded as a kind of global central bank from which member countries could borrow money. The countries needed money to pay for the war costs. Today, the IMF facilitates international trade by ensuring the stability of the international monetary and financial system. The Bretton Woods system also established the World Bank. Although the World Bank shares similarities with the IMF, the two institutions remain distinct. While the IMF maintains an orderly system of payments and receipts between nations, the World Bank is mainly a development institution. The World Bank initially gave loans to European countries devastated by World War II, and today it lends money and technical assistance specifically to economic projects in developing countries. For example, the World Bank might provide a low-interest loan to a country attempting to improve education or health. The goal of the World Bank is to bridge the economic divide between the poor and the rich countries. In short, the organizations differ in their purposes. The bank promotes economic and social progress so that people can live better lives, while the IMF represents the entire world in its goal to foster a global monetary cooperation and financial stability. These two specific accomplishments of the Bretton Woods Conference were major. However, the Bretton Woods system particularly benefited the United States. It effectively established the U.S. dollar as a global currency. A global currency is one that countries worldwide accept for all trade or international transactions of buying and selling. Because only the U.S. could print dollars, the United States became the primary power behind both of the IMF and the World Bank. Today, global currencies include the U.S. dollar, the euro, which is from the European Union countries, and the yen from Japan. The years after Bretton Woods have been considered the golden age of the U.S. dollar. More importantly, the conference profoundly shaped foreign trade for decades to come. Passage 2. The financial system established at the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference endured for many years. Even after the United States abrogated agreements made at the conference, the nation continued to experience a powerful position in the international trade by having other countries tie their currencies to the U.S. dollar. The world, however, is changing. In reality, the Bretton Woods system lasted only 3 decades. Then, in 1971, President Richard Nixon introduced a new economic policy by ending the convertibility of the dollar to gold. It marked the end of the Bretton Woods International Monetary Framework, and the action resulted in worldwide financial crisis. 2 cornerstones of Bretton Woods, however, endured: the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Since the collapse of the Bretton Woods system, the IMF members have been trading using a flexible exchange system. Namely, countries allow their exchange rates to fluctuate in response to changing conditions. The exchange rate between the two currencies, such as the Japanese yen and the US dollar, for example, specifies how much one currency is worth in terms of the other. And the exchange rate of 120 yen to dollars means that 120 yen are worth the same as $1. Even so, the US dollar has remained the most widely used money for international trade, and having one currency for all trade may be better than using a flexible exchange system. This seems to be the thinking of a powerful group of countries, the Group of 20, G20, which has been called for a new Bretton Woods consists of governments and leaders from 20 of the world's largest economies, including China, the United States, and the European Union. In 2009, for example, the G20 announced plans to create a new global currency to replace the US dollar's role as the other anchor currency. Many believe that China's yuan, quickly climbing the financial ranks, is well on its way to becoming a major world reserve currency. In fact, an earlier 1988 article in The Economist stated, 30 years from now, Americans, Japanese, Europeans, and people in other mini-rich countries, and some relatively poor ones, will probably be paying for their shopping with the same currency. The article predicted that the world's supply of currency would be set by a new central bank of the IMF. This prediction seems to be coming to fruition in waiting. For the international construct, such as the original Bretton Woods, to last some 26 years is nothing less than amazing. But moreover, the Bretton Woods and New World Order in finance could be on fast track. At the bottom, you'll find a graph. It says the top 10 international currencies. On the left-hand side is they lift the currency. And then on the right-hand side in the columns, they're going to talk about the percent of shares averaging of the daily currency. Here are our questions. Number 19. Based on the passage 1, it can be reasonably inferred that A, world leaders recognize the need for markets to function independently. B, Bretton Woods increased the U.S. economic influence around the world. C, the IMF and the World Bank work closely together to ensure prosperity. Or D, the conclusion of World War II had little influence on events at Bretton Woods. 20. What choice provides the best evidence for the answers to the previous question? A, lines 9 through 11, B, lines 11 through 13, C, lines 7 through 47 through 50, or D, lines 54 to 56. As used in line 38, foster most likely means A, publicize, B, rear, C, stabilize, D, encourage. 22. Which statement best explains the difference between the purposes of the IMF and the World Bank? A, the IMF provides money to pay for war costs while the World Bank offers assistance to rebuild countries recovering from war across the globe. B, the IMF encourages stability in the global financial system while the World Bank promotes economic development in relatively poor nations. C, the IMF supports the US dollar in international markets while the World Bank provides low-interest loans to many nations around the world. D, the IMF offers government advice about participation in global markets, while the World Bank encourages monetary cooperation between nations. 23. Based on the second paragraph in passage 2, it can be reasonably inferred that A, the United States did not support the goals of the IMF and the World Bank. B, Bretton Woods was originally intended to last for the last 3 decades. C, President Nixon acted to reinforce the decisions made at Bretton Woods. D, some U.S. policy decisions differed from the international consensus over Bretton Woods. 24. Which line choice best provides evidence for the answer to the previous question? A, lines 65 through 66, B, lines 66 through 69, C, lines 71 through 74, D, lines 75 to 79. 25. As used in line 97, anchor most likely means A, key, B, fastening, C, rigid, D, supporting. 26. It can be reasonably inferred from both passage 2 and the graphic that A, international markets are increasingly uncomfortable with using the yuan as a trade currency. B, the United States favors using the yuan as one of the world's reserve currencies. C, the G20 wants to replace the yuan and other currencies with a new global currency. Or D, the IMF continues to support the yuan and other currencies in a flexible exchange system. Last questions. 27. What statement most effectively compares the author's purposes in both passages? A, passage 1's purpose is to contrast the functions of IMF and World Bank, while passage 2's purpose is to outline the benefits of a flexible trade system to the United States. B, passage 1's purpose is to describe the history of international trade in the 20th century, while passage 2's purpose is to explain why the Bretton Woods system collapsed. C, passage 1's purpose is to describe Bretton Woods' effect on the global economy, while passage 2's purpose is to suggest a new currency for global trade may be implemented. D, passage 1's purpose is to promote the economic benefit of IMF and World Bank, while passage 2's purpose is to encourage the reestablishment of the Bretton Woods system. 28. Both passages support what generalization about the global economy? A. U.S. influence on global trade has continued under a flexible exchange system. B. The purposes of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank are indirectly related. C. The Group of 20 represents the finality